Welcome, 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 everyone. We're super excited to have you here today. I just want to give you guys one more minute, everyone checking in. Um, so excited. I love, very passionate about this topic. And we have a few people coming in. That is great. So I'm going to do a brief introduction. Are you guys ready to jump right in? Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very thankful to be here. My name is Marjorie Salas, and I proudly serve as the marketing lead for Prospanica, New Jersey chapter. It's my home chapter. Pleasure to welcome everyone for today's session. We have an amazing speaker. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Arias, and she's an amazing leader. And the title of today's topic is Job Seeking with Purpose, Nurturing Your Mind While Seeking Opportunities. I have my pen and my notepad ready to take notes because if we can all relate, we're on that job hunt and we want to excel, we want to, take that next step into our careers, we gotta take notes and be ready. And for the little preview that I've been in the session, just exchanging with her, I can tell that she's a very an interactive speaker. So make sure you got your questions ready. Make sure you're ready to take notes. Make sure you're ready to interact with her because there will be a great deal of knowledge ready for you. Our focus today is to help you take more thoughtful and intentional approach on your job search. We'll explore on how to stay grounded and motivated during periods of uncertainty, manage stress in a healthy way, and ensure that the opportunities you pursue align with your values and long-term goals. If you haven't already heard, this year's Prospanica's National Conference is free and completely virtual. That is a big deal, guys. So that means that no matter where you are, you will have full access to an incredible lineup of sessions, networking events, career development opportunities, all of it from the comfort of your own house. Or yeah, let's say if you're vacationing from the comfort of your lawn chair, the beach, whatever you are, we are making it accessible to you. If you haven't signed up already, I highly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. You will join a community of driven, mission-focused professionals and gain insight that truly move your career forward. Now it's a time, not today. Make sure you register. I know that with certain capacity, there's a little bit of logistics, so make sure you register for Prospanica National Conference. As part of today's session, we'll be sharing some tools to help you identify opportunities that resonate with your personal and professional purpose. So you are not just landing a job, but you're building a meaningful career path. And with that, it's my absolute pleasure. Our speaker, Dr. Jennifer Arias. Welcome, welcome, welcome. She's an amazing leader. So, very happy to be here and to connect with you. And we are ready to begin. We have an audience ready to receive all your knowledge.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Marjorie, for the warm welcome. And I just want to say my experience being involved with Prospanica and being at the Paraíba Symposium, there's just such a warmth here. And so everyone that's here, I can't see you. I know you're there. I just wanted you to give yourself a pat on the back because these are not easy times to be following your dreams, but you're here, you're doing it. And so the first thing I want you to do is just take a deep breath with me, right? And just feel the energy of what it's like to be part of this group that wants better for themselves, better for their families. And that's why we're here, right? Because it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. And we thrive when we're together. We thrive when we reach out, when we take in, when we get support, and when we start to let ourselves dream. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to start sharing together some of the top concerns and feelings that come up as we're in a job seeking process, even whether you're considering in the middle or maybe you're already in your dream job and you're thinking about what comes next, right? The next thing is we'll have a time to ground together, right? How we do something and the experience we have is sometimes as important as where we're going. Then we're going to talk about some strategies to help manage the anxiety and the hurdles that come up. And finally, we'll land in some practicals to understand how our worry is impacting the process. And we'll have a question and answer time at the end. As a therapist, I love questions. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat wherever you're at. And if they fit with what we're talking about at the moment, I may answer some throughout, or we will have time at the end, right? I believe that we learn by applying the knowledge to ourselves. So if there's anything that's resonating, feel free to put it in the chat as well. The first thing we're going to start with, and you can get your phones out for this one, is answering a question together. So you can get your phones out, and there's going to be a Slido that will pop up in just a moment for us to answer this question together. We'll just give it a moment. The question is going to be, what are the feelings and the thoughts that come up for you as you imagine yourself in the job search process? I'm just going to pull that up for us right now. Okay. I see some people are sharing. Excited, scared. There we go. Some other thoughts. Optimistic. Okay. Just think about it, as you're considering whether you're in the middle of it or you're getting ready for the job search. What comes up? What thoughts are coming up? What feelings are coming up? Unsure, excited, scared, optimistic. Anyone else can feel to participate, uncertainty. Yeah. Notice if the ones that are a little bit bigger, sometimes people have sent the same response. But from being excited to being unsure or uncertain, scared, optimistic, there is such a range of feelings that can come up, right? So even as you're looking at this board, notice that you can feel some of these even at the same time. Numbed, dejected, yeah. I wanted to start today by just frustrated, just naming that it's not an easy process to seek a new job, whether it's by choice or not. And so being able to acknowledge that this process is not just here, we're not just putting in applications, we're doing something that is a part of who we are as people, right? And regardless of your work, it is a part of the energy that you put into the world. And when we're in this place of instability, it can bring up all of these feelings, right? The dejected, the frustration, the scared, especially when there's so much difficulties that are going on around us. So I just wanted to name that it is a very big process to be in, right? Drained, right? And so just acknowledging ourselves and each other that there are a lot of aspects to this process. So we're going to get back to the presentation. I just want you to notice what you feel in your body as you are sharing, right? And I'm just going to open up the presentation again for us to see again. Great. So as we share those feelings, right? Maybe there was some positive feelings, some excitement, some hope, right? But there's also a lot of anxiety that can come up, the frustration, right? When you're working so hard and you're not maybe where you want to be yet. And so I want you to notice what you feel in your body, right? And just take a moment, right? Honor those feelings. And let's take a deep breath together. Right? So much of what gets in the way of getting to where we want to be are these deeper feelings, right? The thoughts and beliefs about whether we can even have what we want. about if we can change our circumstances, maybe judgments from other people, right? Or fear of judgment. And so the way that we get through that in a different way is by coming back to what does feel solid and what we do feel good about. And so I wanted to start off in with a grounding exercise because this is where we come back to ourselves. I call it finding your feet. And so I want you to plant with your feet, both feet on the ground. If you're crossing your legs, you can uncross them, right? And just feel your feet on the ground. Move your heels up and lift them and put them down and just notice what that feels like. And I want you to feel that and I want you to take a deep breath, right? And look around the room where you are right now. Look around, right? Notice the things in this place, whether you're in a room, whether you're outside, this is the place that you're at. And I want you to notice anything that brings you a sense of curiosity. Maybe there's a plant nearby. Maybe there's a plant that you can look at, right? And you can notice, right? Oh, there's a leaf right here. Right? Okay. You can notice the leaf. Maybe you just come back to your hands. You just notice your hands. Deep breath. Or just look at your fingers as you move them. Notice your hands. Have you seen your hands recently? Right? And just notice what it feels like for them to move slowly. Right? And finally, one more deep breath. Right? I want you to think of the people in your life that you feel support and love from. Right? Maybe there's one person, maybe there's a few people, people who believe in you, people who will encourage you. Right? When we find ourselves in these transitions and these times where there's less stability, we need to find the stability inside. That's why we're starting here. So when you can feel your feet, right? When you can relax into your chair and take a deep breath, right? Remembering the people in your life that do believe in you, right? Your mind might go to other things, but come back to what does feel stable, right? And the reason that this is so important is that you can find your sense of confidence and a sense of stability here and now. And we need that especially now. When things around us are uncertain and changing, it's so important to find again the things that do feel good. I put some pictures of nature because oftentimes that can help us bring us back, right? For those of us that have kids or pets, right? Thinking about them, they're very present. And so just, looking at a picture of a baby or a puppy, you might come back, right? There may be a lot of things that you haven't answered yet, especially in the job search. But in this moment, are you okay? Right? And so when you notice that some of the feelings, the dejected, the numb, right, exhausted, maybe the excitement isn't as close, come back to what feels more certain and deep breath, right? And this is a practice to help you move through in a different way. And it's not easy, right? But sometimes how we do something is more important than what we do. And if you get anything from this time together, I hope it's this, that you are allowed to have an experience that feels good for you. It's not just about checking the boxes, it's not just about getting the job, but actually finding something that feels good for you, right? And to find that, you need to know what that is. And so we need to pay our attention to our bodies. And so oftentimes, as Latinos, Latinas, especially women, right, we're taught to really focus on everyone else. That makes us wonderful workers. We know what the boss needs, we know what the team needs, but we didn't drink water all day, right? So as you're going through this process, and we'll take one more deep breath together, right? It's not just the goal that matters, but our experience getting there. And so asking yourself, even in these moments, in this workshop, right? How do I feel about this job search? How do I want my job search to feel? What is my ideal job? What am I going to feel like in that? Because when you know what you want, right? I want to feel competent. I want to feel valued. I want to feel connected, right? Then you can find the opportunities and recognize what is for you and what is not for you. And even more importantly, you can bring some of that into your life now, right? If you want to feel competent, what are things you feel good about right now, right? The things from the outside can help us and give us something, but also what we do and what we do inside gives us sometimes even more, right? Getting more practical together, there are common experiences in job searches, and even the most confident, capable people are tested because this is not a normal decision, right? It's not where are we going to go for dinner. This is something that is connected to our identity, something that is connected to the basic needs, right? Am I going to have food? Am I going to have housing? Am I going to be safe, right? So a lot of the things that we're actually wrestling with in the job search are connected to these. Financial anxiety right now, in the future, am I going to have the life that I want? Social concerns, right? How are people going to see me? And self image, right? Am I the person I want to be? Do I deserve the things that I want? And that's the wrestling that we do. And that's, we can talk about, how many applications are you putting in and what's in your CV? And that is important. But underneath that are these deeper questions, right? What are you actually looking for? Can your job be a source of joy, connection, fulfillment, right? And what are the stories that we tell ourselves, right? If you were unhappy in your last job, why? Was that them? Was that, the different systemic factors? Was that you? Right? And being able to be honest with ourselves about what we've chosen in our professions and how that's connected to our experience, right? So, how do we manage this intense experience, right? I broke this down into three different parts. We could break it up in a lot of ways, but understanding the parts for you, right? When you understand something, you can respond to it. So, this is the work that we're doing. What are your concerns? Oftentimes, I start with the practical. What are the basic needs that you have to cover, right? Because when we're in a place where it feels like we're not going to be okay, whether that's true or not, anxiety rises. And it's hard to do our best thinking, our full brain thinking, when we're responding from a place of fear. So, if you notice that when you're thinking about applying to jobs or you're in the process and you just get flooded with emotions, right, that can be a cue that your trauma response, right, a fear or fight or flight response is being triggered. And that's not you, and that's not a will thing, it's just your body. Our bodies want to keep us safe, and when something doesn't feel safe, even if it's not actually a threat to our life, it tells us this doesn't feel good, right? And not having a job, not having security can very much feel like your life is at risk. And so in these moments, it's important to deep breath, right? Come back to the safety that we started with. Am I okay? Right? If I don't get this, if I this interview doesn't work out, will I be okay right now, next week? And reminding yourself that you will be can help you, right? It can be really helpful to have a plan, right? And I know so many of us do this, but one is for practical and the hopes and the dreams, and the other one is what if the worst case happens? Because oftentimes the anxiety in us tells us these stories about the worst thing, right? Okay, when I worked even with students in high school, they'll tell me, if I fail this test, I'm going to fail high school and I'm going to, never go to college and I'm just going to be a bum. And these are high achieving 4.0 students, right? One quiz does not equal a lifetime of failure, but that's what the feelings inside of us tell us sometimes. And so you might know, okay, this interview is just an interview and it's an opportunity, but being able to remind yourself of of your inherent value can help you, right? This interview isn't about your worth, right? We're getting into the emotional now. What are your tender places? This interview is to see if this place is a good fit for you, right? If a place cannot see your value and what you bring, That's probably not a place you want to be, right? So as you're listening to your experience, did you feel connected in this interview? Do you feel excited about what this opportunity can be? Do you align with this purpose, right? That can help you move from a place of confidence rather than that survival. And so going back to the practical, having a plan. And so many of us financially, there might be a lot of anxiety. And so what do you really need? Right? What are the essentials? 3 months, 6 months, a year, right? And if things don't go as we plan, what will you do? Oftentimes the fear of what might happen is greater than what would actually happen, right? So thinking about the backup plans and your resources, right? Maybe you're not getting your dream job right now, but is there something you can do in the interim and keep moving in that direction, right? When you know, when you're aware of the plans and your mind goes to these like what ifs, it's easier to come back to reality. Okay, well, I have these savings, I have these options, right? But oftentimes when our anxiety is so much or we're afraid, we might take something that actually doesn't fit with what we want, right? And so the most successful job seekers can take risks, but they have a safety net. And so, how do you build your safety net? And I'm not talking about, there's some real things in the world, and sometimes we will have to do work that we don't love, but can it be in service to what you love in the long run? Right. And sometimes that might be acknowledging, okay, would I have to get a roommate? Would I have to move back in with my family? Okay, that's not what we want, and that may never happen. But would you be okay? Could you survive it? So often I ask that question to help us check, this idea that it would be the end of the world. Okay, would it be the end if it didn't go exactly this way, right? Or if things took longer? And the reason we do that is to help quell some of that anxiety, right? I know what we want is to get to our dream jobs and get there as soon as possible, right? But can we make space for different realities and still get to the dream, right? And that is to give us some space and some room for the process, right? The other part, which we're getting to, is emotional. So much of what dictates our behavior are the feelings, right? If you don't think that you maybe qualify for a job, or maybe you're not sure if you can handle it, you may not even apply and you won't know if you can handle this, right? Sometimes even just applying, going through the experience, doing the research, talking to people might be the next step to get to that position, right? Everyone needs to feel confident, but the way that we do that is inside, right? How we talk to ourselves. Did I get rejected from the job, or was my application rejected from the job, right? Acknowledging that this is an experience that it can be personal, but you're a wonderful person. So the stories, if you're the stories you tell yourself, like, oh, they didn't want me or I wasn't good enough. Okay, I'm not sure why. Maybe there was someone that had 20 more years experience, but can I find what I feel good about, right? I trust my leadership. I trust the level of commitment I bring to a team, right? Find those things that you feel good about, because that's when that is in the forefront, that's going to help you find the places that match, right? Again, the places that will appreciate you and accept you are the places that you probably want to be, right? The next thing would be social, right? Who are the people whose opinion affect you? So many times, as Latinas and Latinas, especially, right? We care about our families, we care about the people around us, our friends and connections. And that can be a wonderful source of support. And it can be a really deep source of pain as well, right? If you believe that your parents or people that you respect aren't proud of you, that may make it so that you don't follow your dreams because you're afraid of what will they say if I don't reach them, right? And so when you're noticing that, I want you to ask the question, right? Who are the people whose opinions affect me most, right? And who are the people who actually support me, right? Unfortunately, in our families or sometimes in our social circles, people don't know how to celebrate themselves, how to go after their dreams. And there can be some judgment when, especially with, acculturation, different generations, they might not get, why are you leaving this perfectly good job for something else? Or why are you starting a business? Or what, right? But you know inside of you why you're here and what you're meant to do. And so there can be this anxiety about, what will people think if I fail, right? Well, what will you think of you in 20 years if you don't try it, right? And it's sitting with that part of us that is true and honest and brave, right? That doesn't mean we're going to do everything that we wanted, but if we don't try, we're not going to get anything, right? So oftentimes, one of the biggest barriers is the fears of others and judgment, right? When I work with people who are wrestling with their dream jobs and maybe making a career change, there's sometimes a worry of like, what will my graduate school friends think? What will these people that I've worked with think? And what I always say to that is, okay, how are you going to feel if you stay in this place, in this position that makes you so unhappy, right? How will you feel when you find something that fits better? And oftentimes these people are imagined. We don't even talk to some of these people. We imagine, what are they going to say? What will be the comments on Facebook or LinkedIn? And at the end of the day, what do you want your experience to be? Right? People are going to have whatever their opinion is based on their stories. But what do you want your story to be? Right? So the more aware you are of the feelings that come up, right? Is it worry about money? Is it worry that you're not good enough? Or are you worried about what other people are going to say? The more you can be aware of that, the more you can respond, right? If it's a financial safety, make a plan so you know what the next steps will be, right? If it's more emotional, the tender places, like, can I do this? Can I be a leader? Can I be in this role? Can I do this task? Can I be part of this organization, right? Find the things that help you feel good about you. Because regardless of being in this role or not, you're still valuable. And whether someone else acknowledges it or not, you know that. And eventually you will find the people and places that recognize that, but you won't if you give up too soon, right? So much of the work is taking care of ourselves in the process so we can get to where we want to go, right? And as we notice these internal barriers, whether it's practical, emotional, or social, we can respond, right? And sometimes we need social support. I'm glad you're all here because this is how we fill our cups. One of the reasons that inspired me to start my own therapy practice is seeing colleagues and friends start the practices and do what they love. And every day, it's a scary thing to own your own business, but it's such a blessing and a relief to know that you can get to what you want and it's possible. And if someone else can do it, why can't you do it? Right? So this is why we ask these questions, right? Because we're working through this process and sometimes even going through these experiences can help us grow and become the people that we want to, right? I always believe sometimes you're not just ready for something, but you grow into it, right? As you take the steps, you become ready. And so confidence doesn't come just because you wake up and you feel like you can do it. It comes because you do something over and over again. And so as you're responding to these needs, whether it's practical, emotional, or social, you're teaching your body, you're teaching yourself that you can feel safe, you can feel competent, you can feel supported. So we want to put out from ourselves what we're looking for, right? And getting a bit more practical, right? When you find yourself struggling, as a psychologist, I know that everything we do has a benefit. Even things that sometimes don't make sense in the present, they come from a place where it helps us in the past, right? When we shut down, right? We might say, how is that helpful? Well, when you were younger and the people around you weren't responsive or were engaging in harmful ways, shutting down protected you, right? On the opposite end, when you take over everything and you're burning out because there's too much and you can't handle it, right? In the present, it's too much because you're taking on things that, right? Maybe they're not all for you, or it's something that really you can't change when it involves other people. But as a child, trying to fill the gaps may have helped your family function, right? So everything we do has a benefit. And when we understand why, we can actually get to the underlying need. So the example I have here is rumination, right? We go back and we're thinking about that application or that interview, or why did I say that? Or why did I not say that? Okay, so what is this behavior? What am I getting from rumination? Okay, well, I'm thinking about all of the things and could I have done it better? And oh, why didn't I say that? Right. So when you sit with that, well, what is it that you would do different? Well, I guess I would have read more, or maybe I would have, responded differently. And so what is underneath that is a desire to feel prepared or maybe to not be judged, right? Oftentimes the anxiety can come as a protector, right? If I think about this, if I do this, um, I can avoid certain things. But the reality is that anxiety, especially when we're going through our heads about the future, anxiety can make us experience things that will never happen, right? If you're ruminating on an interview that's going to happen, oh my gosh, what if I don't know what to say? Or what if they're angry? Or they just laugh at me, right? And those things may never happen. And honestly, a lot of times, if they did, that's probably more about them than it is you. But this need to ruminate, right, is actually about this deeper need to feel prepared, to feel safe, right? So when you know and you notice that, oh, I'm ruminating on this, I'm ruminating and I can't let it go. Okay. Well, what is it that you need? Okay. I think I just need to remember I'm a good whatever you are. I'm a good doctor. I'm a good nurse. I'm a good leader. Right? I'm a good administrator. I'm a good engineer, right? Go back to what you actually need. Right? This application does not define you, your values and yourself, right? And I use the word cognitive coping because there's a lot of ways to help ourselves feel better. One was what we did earlier, which was with your body, right? Taking a deep breath, right? Doing some shoulder rolls, helping you just relax, right? You can help and cope with some of the feelings with your body. You can also use your mind, cognitive, right? So what we're talking about right now is using your mind to help you calm down, right? Finding the reminders that help you find that stability, right? I'm good at my job. I love what I do. I want to grow, right? Find the authentic things. I want to try something new. The authentic things to help you find that stability inside again, right? And when we do this, again, the rumination, the worries come up, but it's how we respond differently to them, right? And finally, I love visuals. So you can take a screenshot if this feels helpful for you, but is your worry working for you, right? Anxiety can have a bad rap. But anxiety comes from a place of worry or fear, which can sometimes be helpful, right? If there's a specific thing that you can do, it's actually helpful to have energy to do it, right? If there is an interview and you're feeling a little worried, you may go prepare and research. You may prepare yourself for what's coming, and that will be helpful, right? If you're feeling so worried that you can't sleep, and it's the night before the interview, right? That's probably not going to be helpful, right? So when you're feeling worried, we just need to acknowledge worry is a feeling. Everyone will feel worried, everyone will feel hopeful sometimes. Sometimes we'll be more relaxed, but is your worry moving you to helpful action, right? That's something that you can ask when you're scrolling through jobs for 3 hours, right? Is this actually helping you, right? And if the answer is yes, right? Okay, so there are specific steps. Is there something you can actually do now, right? Because this can drain our energy from what we actually need to do. But if there's something you can do now, yes, okay, do it. If it's something you can do today, right? Lean into that feeling and get the CV done, right? Get the application done. Call the person and network with them, right? Let that be the energy that moves you to what's next. Like we're on a roller coaster and you feel excited. Worry is just a feeling. So you can allow that to move you in the direction you need. Now, there is nothing you can do, right? If you're asking, is there a specific step I can take now? And the answer is no, right? Okay, make a note. Maybe you're worried about, should you put a picture on your CV? I'm not sure, right? But you can say, make a note. Okay, look at my CV, research if I should, add these points, and then regulate yourself again, right? So that you're moving in the direction you want, you're not feeling stuck or you're not feeling drained, right? Rest is actually really important. When we're in a place where we're not feeling safe, it may be hard to rest, like really rest. But if you're not taking care of yourself, like eating, drinking water, sleeping, you're not going to be in the best position to go after what you want, especially if it's something like a dream job, something that is creative, something that brings life to you. It's important to take care of ourselves so we're in that place in ourselves, right? Even before we get to the job, you're good. You are growing. You're qualified. Right? So one more deep breath. Practicing coming back to ourselves. And it's not just where we get to, it's where you are now and taking care of yourself in the process. So if your worry is increasing, and if you go back to that top question, is your worry moving you to helpful action? If the answer is no, right, what is your level of worry? Does it feel unmanageable? Is it having a negative impact? Right, that's a big red flag to take care of yourself. Right? And I know we can't, not everything's on the table. I know we all want the year or two long vacation. And that honestly, a lot of us in our nervous systems can use that. But what are you able to do right now? Right? If your anxiety level is so high, use a coping skill, right? We've done a few in this session. Look at a plant, right? Um, Forest bathing has showed really wonderful results. That literally means go lay under a tree, right? Look up at the tree, right? Feel that stability, right? And deep breath. Right? It's about helping our bodies know that even if we're in this process that's hard and stressful, we are safe. We're going to get through it. And so using those skills to take care of you in the way you would for someone you care about. A lot of us are really good nurturers, right? If our friend was there with us, we'd say, hey girl, have a cafecito, take care of you, have a snack, you've done a lot. Can you give that back to you, right? Can you acknowledge how hard you're working, that you're doing this because you are brave, not because you have failed, right? And even in the process of growing and learning, there are disappointments, right? And so being able to be tender with ourselves in that. And so if the feeling is you just feel anxious, but you're okay, feel the emotion. Right? That's the bottom right box, I believe. Um, you're human. And so whether you're feeling the optimism or whether you're feeling the stress, let yourself feel that, right? Emotions are like waves. They come and they go. But when we fight them, I don't want to feel scared or I don't want to feel uncertain, right? That's actually when we get stuck in the emotions. So it's okay to feel it and deep breath, right? Feel it and keep going in the direction you want. Okay. And so finally, what we've been touching on in this process is connecting with your purpose, right? As you've been reflecting on your experience, right? In the ups and downs, what gives you hope, right? Where does your hope come from? And that may be a sense of wanting to be a source of good in the world, a source of helping your family, right? What in your life is important to you? And you may have to look around and see that the people that look up to you, right? The legacy that you want to leave, hold on to those feelings, right? Imagine yourself in that job now, right? What is that going to feel like? And hold on to that. Find it in the present. Start doing some of those things now. Recognize yourself. If you're trying to get a leadership role, get the plaque. This is boss lady, put it up because that is from inside and not from outside, right? And recognize yourself for these roles so that you can be full and filled and balanced in the process. I have some takeaways for us, right? Paulo Coelho is one of my favorite authors, and this is a quote: maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you so that you can be what you were meant to be in the first place. So this is some reflection that you can take. I do want to have time for Q&A, so we'll move to that. But if you want to take a screenshot, one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves is time. And when we're stressed and there's uncertainty, it can be hard to actually have that space for ourselves. So you can take these home and reflect on them. How are you feeling about this job search? Right? If you could change one thing, what would it be? Right? And what's one strategy or idea that you would like to take with you? Right? Whether it's thinking about the practical planning, emotional planning, social planning, right? And think of one person who encourages you in the journey. Sometimes we can isolate ourselves, and that is one of the most draining things that we can do. Who's one person, that believes in you that you can reach out and share your goals, share some of what you learned today, share about the dreams that you have, because our friends are people who will remind us of those things when we feel kind of low, and that happens, and we get to remind them too. So take that and sit with it so that you can continue to build your network and life in the way that you need. Okay. And we will have some time for question and answer now.
Wow, Dr. Arias, I have some amazing notes.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for all of that amazing information. I believe the biggest takeaway for myself is to breathe in the process, be present, and understand that this is not my identity, it's not my persona. I have to be more, I have to let go and just understand that this is, it will, the right partnership, the right employer will come to me, and I'm ready for that because the universe will manifest. But the worry, I love a question that you ask is this, I, I wrote, is the worry helping me?
Mhm.
Is it helping me get to my goal? Is it good worry? Is it negative worry? And sometimes I believe we can get caught off in those moments. And we're humans. I love uh, throughout the presentation how you engaged us on taking that deep breath, and I was like ready for it. Just being present. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Arias, for your presentation. It was so insightful, and I love how it offered valuable guidance on how to approach job seeking with a great deal of purpose, but not the superficial type of purpose, but with meaning. And now I would like to open up the floor to our audience with any questions you may have for Dr. Arias. Now is your time to interact.
I see a few questions here in the chat, so I'm going to answer.
Awesome, awesome.
I see from Natalia, she said, for job seekers for new opportunities, do you have any resources that can help those considering a job change, like career exploration? So, as a therapist, I always encourage people to connect with their social network. So, you might be surprised if you ask the people close to you, and you can feel free, Natalia, to clarify your question that this is not it. But if you're considering a job change, if you're looking for what you might be good in, you might be surprised that people may have feedback, right? If you ask people around you, what do you think I would be good at? What do you think I would thrive in? You may be surprised that they say, you were really good at organizing. You were really good at designing. You were a wonderful cook. Have you considered this shift, right? We may not see parts of us that people around us may. And so getting that feedback can actually lead to really fruitful understanding of who you are and being able to lean into that, right? And even if you don't follow that path, that can be a way to connect with that part of yourself, right? Let's see. I tend to get really nervous before an interview. How can I ground myself minutes before an interview? Something that can be quick and effective. That's a great question. So, one thing I'll say is it's important to take care of our bodies before. So, did you eat food, right? Did you have a meal? Maybe not right before, but like an hour or so before, so that you're in a good spot with your digestion, right? Did you drink water, right? And if You can tend to get nervous, right? Not so much water, but so that your body feels comfortable, right? Something that can be helpful to do first is make sure both of your feet are planted flat on the ground, right? A rooted, grounded posture can help you. Something I do a lot with clients is what we did in session, right? It might be a few shoulder rolls, right? I do a lot of deep breathing with my clients because what we practice becomes more effective. So if you're doing your deep breathing in the morning, right, and you're imagining that tree or whatever it is that helps you feel balanced, when you're right before that job interview, if you can take that deep breath and go back to what you've been practicing, that can help you, right? So deep breath, right? Sometimes bilateral movements can help your body feel balanced too. So if you have closed toe shoes, you can move your toes back and forth, right, left, right, left. So if you feel like you need to fidget, you can get some of that energy out, right, left, and no one can see, right? So it's finding things that help you feel grounded. Another thing is just open palms, right? If you have open palms and an open body posture, that can help you feel more settled, right? If you're nervous right before the interview, there's probably something going through your head, right? Are you imagining it going bad? Are you worried about what they're going to say? Picture a positive outcome, right? Can you imagine connecting or one, question where you just do a really great job responding? What does that feel like in your body, right? And the more you can practice that, not just right before, but even in the morning and at other times, that will help whether it's breathing or toe tapping, right? Or just self affirmations to be more effective. Okay. One more question. I've applied to many jobs and haven't received any callbacks. I've been patient, but I'm struggling with the uncertainty, especially when it feels like I've tried everything. What can I do when I feel stuck like this? First, I want to extend so much care. I have been in that position too, right? And different points in my life. And it can be really demoralizing because of all these things that are connected to the jobs, right? So when you feel stuck, right, following the flow chart, especially if you're not able to do any meaningful steps, give yourself a break. Even if it's just an evening, even if it's just an hour, do something that you like to do. Go take a walk, listen to music that fills you up, right? Even when this part of your life isn't worked out, you're still alive and you can enjoy that. Even if it's a cup of tea, right? You're allowed to have good feelings and comfort even when you're not at the place you want to be at. And so, just from a self care standpoint, being extra tender with yourself, right? The other part, right, would be to kind of look into what's happening, right? And that can be most helpful getting some feedback from someone that you trust, maybe someone who's in your field, right? Um, has anyone looked over your materials? You may have gone through this list already, but it's just kind of taking a look, right? Is there something that can be different? It may not be anything that you're doing. It may just be that, this is not the easiest economy, right? And so reaching out to people in the field around you can help you get a sense of what's happening. Reaching out to people who are doing what you're doing and just networking, right? I just want to emphasize that this is not easy. When I say that the job search can test the most confident, capable people, this is why, because you can have a wonderful training, background, experiences. And if the job that you're looking for isn't hiring, you're not going to get hired, right? So sit with, do your research and your work on all of those aspects, but then also sit with, right, what do you need? Take care of yourself and then move forward from there, right? Um, as a therapist, as I said, I don't tell people what to do. I think the work is in really sitting with what is important to us. And so if this job is what you're really wanting, then, do continue to do the work, right? And don't give up. And in the process, continue learning about yourself and right, wishing you the best of luck as you're in that process. We have one more question. Even though I know my skills can transfer across industries, I still feel stuck, like I've somehow failed, but not by not having a job that I already love already. How do you move past that kind of fear and self-judgment when you're considering a fresh start? Well, I love that there's an acknowledgement that the skills can transfer across industries, right? Um, Oftentimes I tell people it's not about the circumstances, it's more about our feelings about it, because there are people that have their dream jobs and they're not happy, or they feel like they're not doing a good job. People around them would say they're doing a wonderful job, but the story they tell, usually because of their circumstances and being having a big inner critic, may mean that they don't acknowledge themselves, right? So that feeling of I've failed can come even when you're in your dream job. Because even when you're in your dream job, there will be hard moments or things that don't go as you want. And do those specific things define you? Or does all the work and who you are as a person, can all of that speak to whether you're a success or not? Um, when we talk about being a success, is it the big house? Is it the fancy car? Or is it living a life that actually feels good to us and gives us what we need? We need to ask those questions because we may be living out someone else's idea of what would make them happy and not us, right? If you love to be outside and be around people, being in a corner office, even if it's a top suite where you work on your own, that might not fill you. And so it's really sitting with those individual things for ourselves. Um, the feeling of I've failed by not having a job that I love already, there's something about our culture that tells us that we're in a race oftentimes, right? Go to school, get a job, do it now. Why do other people get to decide how long we take to do something? If it takes you 4 years to graduate college, if it takes you 7 years, but you did what you wanted to do, you had your life, you had a family, you traveled, or you just weren't burnt out, right? At the end of the day, what matters is that you get to where you want to go in the way that feels best for you. So the idea of like feeling like you failed, right? Again, I'm a psychologist. I have my doctorate. I know doctors and lawyers and everyone on the outside, they may be doing the things that they want, but on the inside, are they actually happy? That's the harder question. So, some people, when I've worked with certain clients, like they needed to take a break from work to actually find out what worked for them. Not everyone is in that position, but letting yourself dream. And again, at the end of the day, let's say you try something and it doesn't work out. Okay. Well, when you look back on your life, I'm talking about like when we're older, when we're in our 90s, and you look back and you say, I started that business. I moved to England. I did these things, right? And I'm not talking about just spontaneous decisions without planning. I'm talking about the wholehearted decisions, the things that we dream of, that we go back to over and over again. There might be something in that that is important that you want in your life, right? It may be something you do as your primary job or something that you do in addition or in a different season, but not giving up because of that feeling like we're behind. Oftentimes, people that didn't have a lot of family support or didn't, first generation college students, it takes us longer to get to certain places because we didn't have the support that certain people had, right? And so acknowledging that everyone's circumstances are different. And also, people may be in one job and change later. So that's what I mean, that there's this idea that we're in a race, but the whole point is finding what works for you. So I'm glad that you're aware that maybe there's some curiosity about switching, right? Switching to something or exploring a different industry, right? At the end of the day, what do you want your experience to be? And imagining that, right? And again, that self judgment may be there. Is that worth giving up? What would maybe fill you more or help you have the life that you want? Yes, it's not a race. So I think,
Wow, Dr. Arias, that was so, so good.
of course, you're welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'm full of gratitude. I love how, again, I can't, I can't stop quoting you. Let yourself dream. That's something wonderful. Sometimes we get caught up on what's happening and just listening from a professional perspective in a professional setting. Sometimes it can put our guards down to embrace it. You're giving us the okay to, yes, it's okay, we can dream. It's okay, we can take the deep breath in the moment. It's okay to to go embark in the journey. And it is not personal, it's just our careers. And sometimes we have to follow those steps. But thank you so much, Dr. Arias. I'm sure that I am not the only one in this group that has taken a lot of notes and just so beautiful to for you to answer all those amazing questions. So we have now reached the end of today's session, and it is with the close of our pre-conference webinar series, which you have to stay tuned. If you're not currently following us on our social media, please do so, because we're posting events, we're posting webinars, and there is a lot of golden nuggets coming very often. I would say multiple times a week, if not daily. Um, but all of this is leading up to the Prospanica National Conference. And I can tell you myself, I will be attending almost all of the webinar series. A special thank to Dr. Arias for sharing such a valuable insight to all of you, and your thoughtful, pouring so much into answering the questions, in active participation to everyone who is engaged in this platform. Today's discussion was job seeking with pardon me, job seeking with purpose, nurturing your mind while seeking opportunities. You see, this is live. Sorry, I make mistakes. Um, it provides meaningful strategies to help us navigate our careers in this beautiful, wonderful journey while staying intentional and staying resilient. As a reminder, Prospanica Virtual Conference, it is happening October 23rd, 24th. So make sure you mark your calendars. The conference is completely free, like absolutely zero cost. So get ready, get engaged, get ready to learn, get ready to lead. This is for leaders, this is for professionals, this is for people who are ready to take their career into the next level. This is a heartfelt thank you so much for registering today for this webinar. And our warm thanks to United Healthcare Group for sponsoring this, whose generous support makes this possible for all of the attendees at absolutely no cost. So thank you so much. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And we cannot wait to see you on the next conference. Make sure you're following on social media, you're following us our newsletter, you're following us on LinkedIn, everywhere. We are here for you. Have a wonderful day, and until the next time. Bye bye.